You ever ask an AI a question and get an answer that is just confidently, completely, and spectacularly wrong? Yeah, it's a huge problem. But there's this really fascinating technology designed to fix it by, well, essentially giving the AI an open book exam. It's called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short, and we are going to break down exactly how it works.
You know, at its heart, RAG is all about grounding AI in reality. So instead of just relying on the massive but totally static information it was trained on, RAG lets a large language model, an LLM, go look up fresh, relevant info from a specific set of documents before it even tries to answer your question.
And that is a totally fair question, right? Why do these incredibly powerful, expensive models sometimes just invent facts or policies or even legal cases right out of thin air? Well, the answer really gets to the very core of how they work, and it's the exact problem that RAG was built to solve.
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll unpack AI's big little lie, the problem of hallucination. Then, we'll see how RAG is the open book solution. We'll take a peek under the hood at the mechanics, face the real-world challenges and security risks, and finally, we'll check out where this game-changing tech is already making a huge impact.
Okay, so let's start with the core problem itself. The AI industry has a kind of gentle term for when these models confidently state total falsehoods as facts. They call it hallucination.
See, an LLM's knowledge is basically frozen in time. It's limited to the data it was trained on. It has no idea what happened yesterday, and it definitely doesn't know about your company's private internal documents. So when you ask it something outside its knowledge base, it's not really thinking. It's just trying to predict the most plausible-sounding string of words, which, you guessed it, often results in a complete fabrication.
And these hallucinations, they can have massive, massive consequences. In its very first public demo, Google's Bard AI made a simple factual error about the James Webb Space Telescope. That one little mistake rattled investors so badly, it was a factor in wiping a staggering $100 billion, that's billion with a B, off the company's market value. The stakes for getting the facts right could not be higher.
So how do we stop a know-it-all AI from just making stuff up? Simple. You give it cheat sheets. And that is the fundamental idea behind Retrieval-Augmented Generation.
So RAG, which was first proposed back in a 2020 research paper, is basically a framework that connects the LLM to an external knowledge base. This could be a curated library of documents, product manuals, medical articles, literally whatever you want. The key is, before answering, the AI retrieves relevant snippets from this library to build its response.
This analogy really is the perfect way to think about it. A standard LLM is like a student taking a closed-book exam. It's relying only on what it managed to memorize during training. But with RAG, it's an open-book exam. It gets to consult its notes, that trusted knowledge base, to make absolutely sure the answer is accurate, up-to-date, and based on facts you can actually verify.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now let's get into the fun part, the how. How does the AI actually look up the right information so incredibly fast?
Now, this diagram shows you the basic architecture. I know it might look a little complex at first, but you can see the flow from the documents on the left that build a knowledge base all the way to the user's question on the right, which gets a nice factual answer. It really just boils down to two main phases, an offline prep phase and a real-time Q&A phase. So let's break that down even simpler. First, there's indexing. This is all about preparing your documents so the AI can search through them in a snap. Second is retrieval and generation, and that's what happens every single time a user asks a new question. So how do you build this library? Well, first you feed it your documents. Let's say your company's HR manual. The system breaks these down into small, digestible chunks. Then, here's where the magic happens. Each chunk is converted into what's called a vector embedding. Just think of it like a unique numeric fingerprint that captures the meaning of that chunk. All these fingerprints are then stored in a special vector database, which is like a super fast library catalog that's organized by meaning, not just by keywords.
All right, now for the real-time part. A user asks a question, like, hey, what's our parental leave policy? The system immediately converts that question into its own fingerprint and instantly finds the document chunks with the most similar fingerprints in its library. And here is the absolutely crucial part. It gives the LLM both the original question and the relevant text it found. With that cheat sheet in hand, the LLM can generate a precise answer that's actually grounded in real company policy.
But look, RAG is not a silver bullet. It's not perfect.
Just like any powerful new technology, it comes with its own set of challenges and some pretty serious security vulnerabilities that engineers have to account for.
This table just shows how many ways this whole open book process can go wrong. For instance, sometimes the answer just isn't in the library. That's missing content. And a badly designed system might just hallucinate anyway. Other times, the system retrieves the right page, but the LLM still can't find the answer in the text. That's not extracted. Basically, every single step in the process we just walked through is a potential point of failure.
And beyond just simple failures, there are active security threats. Attackers can try to leak sensitive data by tricking the system into retrieving it. They can try to poison the knowledge base by feeding it fake documents to make the AI give biased or wrong answers. And maybe the scariest one, they can hide malicious instructions inside a document so that when it gets retrieved, it hijacks the AI and makes it do something it was never supposed to.
But even with those challenges, RAG is already proving to be an absolute game changer across dozens of industries, powering reliable, trustworthy AI assistants.
The versatility here is just incredible. I mean, it's touching almost every industry. Think about e-commerce chatbots pulling answers right from product catalogs. Or in healthcare, an AI grounding its medical advice in the latest published research. In education, AI tutors can use course materials to help students study. And in the corporate world, RAG lets an AI safely tap into a company's private, internal knowledge. The applications are just vast.
So RAG fundamentally changes an AI from a closed book know-it-all into an open book researcher. It makes AI more factual, more current, and way more trustworthy. But that also puts a huge responsibility on us, the people building these systems, to be really careful curators of its library. Which leaves us with a final question to think about. As we build these enormous knowledge bases for our AIs, what is the most important thing we need to make sure they learn?